welcome along to what I would say is a different video for me, and this video is all about comics. Now before you click off, you might find this a little bit of interest to yourselves. For people who know me, I usually talk about Blu-rays and DVDs and 4Ks, but in this one I'm going to talk about my favourite comic that was the only comic to ever be banned in the UK, and it's a kids comic, and that comic was Action. But before I get into that, I just want to take you through a brief history of my comic buying exploits, which would probably be the same as most of people around about my age. Now, the earliest comic that I can find that I was bought, and I can't even remember these comics, probably did when I was a kid, but anyway, the earliest one I've got is from 1971, and it is, don't judge, I was only 4, by the way. It is this one here, Disneyland Magazine, and it is the price of 7p, or in old money 1 and 6 penny. I believe that's how you say it, 6D. Now this one would have been probably, well, definitely bought for us, and it would have been probably bought for us by me gran, and I can't even remember it, but I know it's the earliest one I've got. So that was the start of my comic buying phase, which lasted for many years. In 1972, I found this one, which is more or less the same as the Disneyland ones. The comic size is huge as well, which is not great for any collector. You can't put them anywhere, but never mind. They've stood the test of time. I can't even believe that they're still around at this point. And they're complete as well, which is still mad. 10p, that was quite a large amount of money for a comic in 1972, I would believe. So anyway, after all that childishness, I then progressed into probably buying comics that I wanted to buy to watch. So can't find anything between 1972 until 1974 came along, and this one, and you know, I was watching horror films on Saturday night, namely Hammer horror films, like everybody else was. And also this was my go-to comic that I got, and when I got this comic, this was the start of me getting into the more darker side of comics, and that is the classic Dracula Lives. Now these Dracula Lives were actually a copy of an American comic called Tomb of Dracula, which was in colour, a smaller more compact version. This is a larger version. It's all in black and white, but from this point I was hooked to the stories in here, which is Dracula Lives, Werewolf by Night, and the Frankenstein's monster, and I couldn't get enough of this comic. It was my favourite comic for many years, and I'm saying many years, it didn't last very long, these comics, but this one here was my favourite one. But as these comics all did, within a few years, they amalgamated with comics. They became less of what they were. The main character probably made a cameo, and they inevitably ended up as this one, number 87, which we're now in 1976, is Dracula Lives Plus, featuring the Legion of Monsters. And it just went down in all its estimation in your books, because you think to yourself what it used to be. A lot of comics, especially Action, what they used to be and then what they became. But anyway, so that's just to show you that good comics can go bad. So around about the same time as Dracula Lives, I did briefly get into one that was out at the same time. This is number 4 from 1974. This is the Planet of the Apes comic, which I really liked, but I would think by maybe they amalgamated very early on into their career, their span, and they didn't really set the world on fire. It was good when the first original ones, because it more or less followed the film of Planet of the Apes, and then it kind of took a branch off, and I really lost interest in this one quite early on. One that I didn't lose interest in, and I went and revisited many years later, and I got all of the editions on eBay, and there's only 18 of them, and I got them because I'd read them all before in Dracula Lives, and I enjoyed them immensely. So I thought, let's see if I can get them all in colour. So the first one that I got and collected the 18 of is The Monster of Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's Monster, I think it became a bit later on in its span. Didn't last for very long. I'm trying to think what year this is from. I think this is maybe from 1973. I didn't get any of these on release. I got them all like in eBay maybe 10 or 15 years ago. They're an easy collection to get. I've also got this one with a free 7-inch record that you can play the record as you're listening to as you're watching the magazine, which is mad. So that's an excellent addition if you ever wanted to get one. But anyway, I can go into more details about any of these comics at a later date. But we're just going to touch on these ones briefly before we get into the nuts and bolts of this, which is action. So along the same time, and this was me all getting this after fact, and obviously on eBay, is The Werewolf by Night. I did have them all-ish to even the number 32, which goes for thousands of pounds now. And I sold my 32 because I was wanting to get a drum kit, and part of the money for that went towards a drum kit. I only got about £70 for it. I know it goes for thousands now, which is a bit of a shame, but in a way, well, it got me drum kit for us, but I don't mind. I'll never buy it again because I can't afford it, but at least I saw it, at least I watched it. Although I don't know why it goes for so much, even though it was the first appearance of Moon Knight. I don't see how that's such a big thing, but some people do. So also at that point, yes, I didn't get many of these. In fact, this is probably the only one I've got. The Tomb of Dracula is just a colour version of Dracula Lives. I would like to get all of these, but I think these days it's becoming harder to buy collections, and it's becoming very pricey because, I mean, they are 40, 50 years old, nearly. Wow. As well, I was getting little things like this. Not many of these type of things, but there were these little horror anthologies, which are very good. I don't know how many of them there were. I wouldn't know if I would ever want to collect them all, but I know I've got a few of these from the past, and they're all right. They're a good read. I was as well at this point branching out into the more getting a bit more grown up with my choices, but not that this is grown up, but I was getting more into Mad Comics, which has got amazing artwork, and these used to stand out in the shelves, so I had to get these ones. Also, since I was still young at the time, I did, as most people might have got at this point, I did get Monster Fun, which I got all the free gifts for them, and I don't think any of the free gifts remain now. The action free gifts is another story, but I'll say that for another video. Yes, and also because I got Monster Fun, I would obviously get Cheeky magazine, because I think he was in either Monster Fun, he was in the Beano or something like that. Brilliant comic. I used to like that. Obviously, that's these a bit like the Action #1 free gift. You just used to get them, throw them away. They would last a day when you assembled them, or you had them, and you span them off into the stratosphere, and you would end up with nothing. But that's why none of them exist now. Also, things like Plug as well. That was a thing that probably most people got, you know, it's because I had Binos and Danny's, all that, you know, but everyone knows what they look like. Also, round about this time, maybe a little bit after Action, although I haven't got #1 of this issue, I used to have it. I give my #1 to #8 to a friend of mine for nothing when I was a kid, which I bitterly regret now. Just imagine, it didn't have any free gifts because obviously I lost them straight away, but imagine how much I could have got from them. You can see the beloved pencil mark of the what they're called, newsagents. So yes, so that features heavily in most of the comics that you buy now, unfortunately, but you always had them put away for you. But anyway, the real thing that we're here to talk about is the Majestic comic that was released in Valentine's Day 1976, the 14th of February, and also it had a free gift. Of course it did. The first 3 had a free gift, and like I said, it run to about issue number 36, and we thought it was banned. At that time, I didn't know it was banned. It just vanished because obviously no social media, no nothing. You would never know anything like that. The news agents just didn't have it anymore. Then it came back as well in December 1976, and I think it was the 4th of December, in a very different manner. It looked good, but it was nowhere near what action used to be like. So of course, in the next video, I'll be taking you through my action collection, which will start from this beautiful creation, action number 1. Now, my first action was actually action number 2. That was the first one that I saw on the shelves. So I got it and I couldn't believe what I was actually seeing in it. It was like something you've never seen before. If you're thinking you were getting in these and then this turned up on your doorstep, can you imagine the difference it was to a young, I'm going to say I was about 7 or 8. It was just unbelievable. So, of course, that evolved into this, which is, we all know what happened there. Can't believe that it went into that in the only space of about, a year, 2 years. Also, I can take you through things like this, which is what you used to see in the comics before you used to go and get them and used to think, I'll have a bit of that. So, anyway, that's it for now. And what I'll do is I'll get another video together concerning the action number 1 to 36, which are the pre-ban actions. So thank you for listening. And if you like this video or you want to see more, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.